Not say that yet, but you know what? Screw that clock. We are rebels, and we do things 1 minute ahead of time. Oh, 2:30, we're good. Okay. Welcome. All right, I am Jimmy Trevor. This is Kevin Lemons. We are doing a panel on multiple topics, as you may have noted from the description that you hopefully read. If you didn't, that's even better of you, because apparently you came in just because of our awesome poster, which Mike set up here. Everyone say hi to Mike, yeah. Also doing our videography. What's up? Normally it's me holding the camera. I have 2 of these. I take these everywhere I go. I have this 2 terabyte hard drive where I have like my life story. It's amazing. So topic number 1, experiences in Japan. I went to Japan for 7 months during 2010. I got back in November, and I'll be talking about that and taking a few questions. Oh, there's a guy with a tripod. Man, we must be special. And number 2, our animation project, of which you've seen a couple of teasers already. We went blue.
I was thinking. Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, just get ready when we need it.
Well, you had some stuff to show.
And I have some stuff to show too. Yes,
figured
I'm
out
still talking.
that.
Right.
We're really organized.
Incredibly so. So, our animation project, Baka Desnay, which is an amazing thing, animation, indie, majig, mobile. We have like flyers up here, and by flyers I mean, 8 by 11.5 pieces of paper that I just typed up yesterday, because we didn't have anything to pass out. Baka Desnay, though, is an animation project to teach Japanese. Teach Japanese in the most awesome way possible, because every other way of learning Japanese is frigging boring. Raise your hand if anyone's tried to learn Japanese. Let me say this. Alright, anyone who's studied more than 1 year? Keep your hand raised. More than 2 years? More than 3 years? Are you fluent over there? No. Oh, okay, well, keep working at it.
It's like
I
studying.
came back from Japan. I'm still not exactly fluent. It's like, I can get through a conversation if I'm allowed to ask, what did you just say? Also, if I'm allowed to just, pretend here and there. You may know the word hidoi, for instance, means, like, that's mean. Like, maybe if I made a mess, you had to clean it up, you could say hidoi. So, this girl at one point told me her name, and then later I forgot. And I said, oh, I forgot your name. She goes, oh, hidoi. And I totally thought her name was Hidoi for like the next unit of time there, which was confusing after a while. I was like, doesn't that word have another meaning? Oh, frick, I get it now. Also, the word for cake is very similar to the word for economy. It's like keiki versus keiki. And if you can't hear the difference, good for you, because neither can I. But I totally asked if some lady selling yakitori. This is like meat on a stick. You can get off on the street or whatever. And I was trying to practice Japanese. I said, "Oh, so how's business been going recently?" And she goes, "Oh, well, business has not been going good, because of the cake." I was like, "What did the cake do? You don't even sell cake." It took me like all day to figure this out. So watch out for that. The economy and cake and the, yes, I do have that written down. In our list of puns, we are compiling this incredible list of possible puns to use in Baka Desnay, which, for those of you who don't know enough Japanese, if you read off, oh, look, this is signed too. Yeah, see, you all came because of these signatures, I'm so sure. No, Baka Desnay translates essentially as idiot, or I'm an idiot, or he, she, it is an idiot, or any number of other things. It's about an American man who accidentally travels to Japan in a suitcase while pursuing a banana. And once there, he notices that he does not know how to speak the native language. And slowly learns, with the help of mild-mannered and awful befuddled Takashi, or his native Japanese guy who's trying to teach him.
And a series of crazy, wacky adventures.
We're showing trailers of it a little bit. I'm seeing people still like walking in here and there.
Adventures.
Crazy, amazing adventures. Yes, that is our official adjective with a hyphen in the middle. Just want to point that out. That's the way that I was getting. Disputes over whether or not we should have hyphens in these posters. Let's see. So I'll talk a little about Japan. I went to Japan at a study abroad program, which is, if you're in college anyway, I'm not in college anymore, I graduated. I graduated while I was abroad, which you're not supposed to do, apparently. But, whatever. They found out while I was there. They totally thought I was graduating, like, next year. Which was doubly cool, because I didn't really attend classes much. So at the end, they're like, oh, so you already graduated? Well, where do we send your grades? I'm like, oh, just send them to my house. That'd be great. Yeah, I'll deal with those. I arrived in 1st, 2010, which was kind of scary, because I thought maybe I'd get off the plane and they'd be like, April Fools, there's no Japan. We made it up. It's a reality show. It's your favorite country doesn't exist. I think that would be the worst reality show ever, actually. No. They're probably the cruelest one I've yet seen. But no, I arrived, did a study abroad program, went to Carthage College in Kenosha, not too far away from here. And they had a nice exchange program with Tokyo Gakugei University. So you pay the same tuition, you know, whichever way you go, which actually I would have paid less if I wasn't on that program, I later found out. But whatever. It takes a bit of preparation to get to Japan. You need, supposedly, vaccines, for instance. This is one of the great lessons. For people who are hoping to study abroad, most of the vaccines you already got when you were like in 5th grade. My doctor didn't know this. I ended up paying however much money to like get these all shots again. Thank you very much. No. And then you get to Japan. And it was amazing because you're on the other side of the world all of a sudden. I'm gesturing. I do this. I had a speech teacher once who actually grabbed my hands in class and put them aside because he didn't like the gestures. You notice, like, on our freaking logo, Desi's doing this because that speech teacher was dumb. Anyway, so you go all the way to Japan, you're on the other side of the world, you know, everything's foreign in Japanese, and people are speaking in Japanese, which you've been studying for 4 years. I've been studying since the beginning of college, and still, like, didn't quite get it, really. Every time I went to Japanese class, like, I was struggling through stuff and whatever, and, you know, you develop techniques, like, you realize that they're going through one kid in a row of, like, do each problem, so you go ahead and, like, find out the answer to that one question and answer that one, because you couldn't do all the others in time. Anyway, I get there, everything's Japanese, written in Japanese, suddenly I'm illiterate, this is great. We had a written test you had to take to find out if you were smart enough to be in the school you'd already been accepted to. And it was only in writing. They didn't tell me this. I was hoping there was an oral component. I'm much better at that. I get to writing and I'm like, frick. And scored slightly below the you're allowed to be in Japan marker. But they decided to let me stay, which was nice, because it was a long flight. One of the surprising things about Japan is the amount of influence from other cultures. For instance, I'm from Chicago, flew through Houston for some reason, then went to Tokyo, get to Japan, go all the way, you know, see people in all their native ways of life, and I'm in like some, you know, grocery store or something, and they're like playing some Japanese, you know, music on the radio, and then the song ends, and then it goes, Uptown Girl, we've been living in it. I'm like, what the frick? Came several thousand miles, and that song's still playing for me. So, one of the things you will find with Japan, it does make it a little easier, though, for the language whenever they've adopted, you know, certain words from, you know, English to Japanese, like door is doa, for instance. And cake is keiki, unless you're doing the economy, which is keiki, which is very complicated. Had several classes in Japan, most of them are kind of dumb, some of them are really fun. There was one that was basically a club disguised as a class. This is like, okay, we're going to come to class, we're going to explore culture. And by exploring culture, I mean, let's pick a random game and play that. We did like Foursquare. Okay, today we're playing Foursquare now. And learned ballet at one time. I should have had that video available. After 40 minutes of training, my improv ballet in front of the class. Very awkward, but entertaining. I'll see if I can get it for you, though. Put it on the website, maybe. But anyway, so I actually came back, I taught some English while I was there. Another neat thing you can do in Japan, you don't need to have credentials. This is fun. I mean, I didn't have like an official job with it. I was doing sort of, you know, under the table, I guess you would call it. Someone just came by the campus and, you know, asked if anyone was willing to teach English, and I mentioned this earlier, and so once a week I was being paid $30 an hour to come by and basically read things aloud in English. This was really neat. I was told I had a very good voice for reading. Because everyone in Japan learns a bit of English, but no one really speaks it all the way. Terrible fake accents and so forth. You know, there's this whole category of like, you know, English-speaking whatever, like a doctor, for instance. And it's like, no, it's not actually English-speaking. It's like English with a terribly thick accent speaking, and they won't understand everything you're saying. But while in Japan, I was working on the Baka Desnay project to learn Japanese a little bit better. Because for those of you who have learned Japanese, and we had a number of hands go before us, so we have a couple more people that learn. So raise your hand if everyone's tried to learn Japanese before. We had several people in here. All right. It's freaking boring. Despite the fact that anime and so forth is freaking amazing. Which is how I initially got into this. I studied Spanish a couple years in high school, which I did not care for at all. So we started putting a thing together that would somehow get concepts across while still being freaking fun. And let's show them a couple of teasers. Get this thing plugged in.
Okay.
This is all a very rough draft and whatever, but
Yeah.
go ahead and see for yourself.
We're still getting going, but this is.
In a world where this guy doesn't know Japanese, this other guy will teach him Japanese. But it won't be easy because the first guy's kind of an idiot. Really. Baka Desnay!
I'm basically going to show the next one.
Learning Japanese.
Some textbooks
Japanese
actually
is
start
a
like
language
this.
which is distinguished by a complex system of honorifics reflecting the hierarchical nature of boring. Baka Desnay!
Or three. I'll show we'll leave the other two.
He's fought aliens
This is cool.
and secret agents.
Totally have all this.
He's faced ninjas, pirates, zombies, and robots. And ninja pirate zombie robots. Not to mention robot pirate zombie ninjas. What's coming this summer? Destiny takes on his greatest challenge yet. To learn Japanese as none have learned it before! Baka Desnay!
Totally love that pronunciation. Alright, leave that for now, but let's save the other ones for a little bit later.
Okay.
So, yes, our plot involves our American, incredibly, because of Japan, very slow to start studying the language. And we're looking at, not only the ways of making it fun, we have all these things about, we have grammar ninjas, for instance. They're I guess grammar Nazis, except actual ninjas as opposed to grammar Nazis, which are figurative. And they enforce the rules of grammar, so naturally they want to kill Desi at some point.
But nobody knows that they exist.
Nobody knows they exist, except Desi at some point, because he has a way of stumbling upon all the randomness in the universe. We're going to have so many episodes, at some point there's going to be some insurance agent who's going to be okay, there's only 3 things we don't cover. And that's tornadoes, Godzilla, Baka Desnay, and of course the trifecta. It's going to be Desi riding Godzilla in a tornado, and that will have happened in one of our episodes. We the word, we're talking about puns earlier, the word taco means octopus in Japanese. So we totally have, in the first, episode 3 or something, he's like, oh, I'm hungry, okay, somebody, get me a taco, and gets, of course, a freaking octopus, and he goes, this is the best taco ever! It's like, Takashi, I've got a pet, I'm naming him Taco, this is Taco the Taco! Totally, because it's going to be one of our t-shirts at some point, it's going to be yeah, taco, and on the front he's holding an actual taco, on the back he's holding an octopus. And then taco also means kite, so Taco the Taco will get a taco at a certain point. You see the way we're tying in the meanings of the words and so forth. And various and so forth, right. And the various experiences of Japan. We have, you need to get an alien registration card a little way after you get in Japan. So naturally we involve a plot with actual aliens and getting a registration card. And the Desi who came to America in a suitcase, not exactly having one, and being chased by hordes of secret agents. And so forth. We've written several scripts on this, and obviously we're still sort of getting off the ground. We have a couple more teasers to show you here. But we're hoping to, keep advancing this, and we got a couple more things at other cons coming up where we hopefully have, full episodes and so forth.
We tried to get an episode together for this, but we had trouble getting the art drawn, because neither of us...
we can't draw. We found Mike, though, he can animate, which is cool. We do have a little bit of animation. And a couple other people who can't draw much, and Buffy also contributed one of our logos. Not the one we're using here, but still, contributions.
This is an open project.
Open project, yeah.
We accept contributions from anyone.
Yeah.
And
that's a general idea. So, let's see. I'll take polls from the audience. Shall I talk more about, or take questions even, from experiences on Japan, or Baka Desnay project, or mixtures of both, or whatever? Someone raise your hand with, what do you want? Because I don't want to bore anybody, so. Yes?
Experiences in Japan.
Experience in Japan. Everyone's cool on that? All right, very cool. Thank you for your assent.
You want to?
Yeah, go ahead, plug that. So I kept a blog, actually, while I was in Japan, called themaninjapan.net. I was amazed that no one had taken this moniker. It rhymes, come on guys, it's so cool. So, as I was saying to some of the people that got here earlier, there is a large Australian bird called the emu, and a bakery called Emu Pain, which I always just thought was like the most badass bakery ever. So we're gonna have Desi do that at some point. I don't know like what the context would be, but someone is like messing with the bakery. He's like, "You have messed with the baker, man. You're in a world of hurt. That's not just pain. That's emu pain." And then like 100 emus just pop out of nowhere and like chase a guy down the street or something. You know, things like that. We always have things like. At some point, there's gonna be some random episode where some guy like bumps into Desi and steals his wallet and like runs away, and Desi like chases after him for like the whole episode, and then finally catches up and goes tag, and then runs away and knocks the hat off while he's at it. You know, constant like everything is a frigging adventure. Everything like in an early episode we have, you know, they're going to get like on a train or something, but they're late and the train's pulling away. Trains are very big in Japan, you know, Takashi was all like, "Oh well, you know, we're late. I guess we're gonna have to take the next train." Because he's like, "We're gonna have to jump," and then runs and jumps for the train and then misses and then falls on the tracks and then gets up just as another train comes by. Trains, by the way, segueing back to the experiences in Japan segment, that was so lovely impressive. Very important in Japan is getting around, or at least in Tokyo and in Japan in general. They have a dense population, makes for a really good situation for having trains, and pretty cheap compared to all the stuff you spend on cars with the cost of gas and everything. I went 7 months in Japan without ever getting in a car, let alone owning one, and it was awesome. I actually got exercise for once because you go outside and walk places. You know, or take a bicycle, which I hadn't done in like years, it turns out. I had to buy a bike in Japan. I was like, I don't think I've ridden a bicycle in like 5 years, because I'm a nerd and I'm in front of this computer all the time, which is why I need to stretch my neck once in a while. But yeah, you know, you go to Japan, you get yourself a bike for like $100, which is like 10,000 yen. Yen is currently about 1 yen is a penny, so you just chop off the last 2 digits of anything.
Lower than that.
It's changed since that, or whatever.
That's a good approximation.
It's a good approximation.
Because it's easy to figure out.
Right, so if someone like is going to pay you 500 yen for something, that's not a lot. Make me clear on that. Trains, don't miss the last train. This is nice to know. The trains all stop at midnight, or like some of them they go to like 12:30. I don't know why this is, because the country runs on trains. And you think there must be someone who stayed out past midnight and would like a train home. There's actually a whole separate thing for that. There's capsule motels. Have you ever seen or heard of this thing? Raise your hand if you've heard of capsule hotel, Yeah, this is. I don't have proper internet right now.
Oh,
problem.
okay.
So I have the tabs I loaded up earlier. Thankfully, I had enough foresight for that. But yeah, this is. It's like somewhat larger than a coffin. You basically climb in and slide into this thing. You have like your room, it's like, maybe 6.5 feet long and like 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide or something. Explicitly for the I missed the last train home market. So I'm guessing that those guys probably
stay.
Or if you're homeless, it's also a nice place to stay.
Or a cheap place to stay.
Or a place to stay, yeah. I'm guessing they don't want to put too many trains going at 1 a.m. because then they would screw up with the capsule motel market. And, who would mess with that?
They don't have enough people at 1 a.m. to make it worth running.
It's Japan. There are a lot of people. A lot of people, in density anyway. Which does give you a lot of opportunities for practicing Japanese. Now, this is a deal. If you want to learn Japanese, if you want to learn any language, the big trick is to actually practice it, and not with a freaking textbook, because no one walks around with textbooks in Japan. No one's like, wait, let me look up this phrase. You can't really do it. You have to, have the experience of getting through a conversation and, being able to follow, the detail of something. Even if you missed one detail, you can get another. You can figure out kind of what they were saying, or in my case, screw it up. But that's cool. Is very important though, and it is a terrible temptation to only talk to people that speak English I know I did this too much, you know. There are several people. It was an international dorm I was at, so several people were either from America or like one guy was from Australia. His name was Ross, which was awesome because I could call him Ross Australia. I love dumb puns. Hello, we're getting a crowd. Sup? Everyone wants to hear about Ross from Australia. It's amazing. Think about that. Yeah, and some people I knew that spoke Japanese well enough. I'm just getting pictures of your lovely faces to document that someone did this to me. How amazing would that be? But yeah, you end up talking only to those people, you know, and only to people back home. So you get on Skype, right, and you talk to people back in America, which Skype is great, by the way. It's freaking free currently, and you keep in contact. I keep in contact with people back in Japan now. Occasionally it cuts out and whatever, but you can't complain very much when it's free. Trouble is, though, if you do this all the time, you are not learning anything. And one of the big deals with Baka Desnay, you see these things are intertwined, it's amazing, is to learn, you have to be willing to be stupid. You have to be willing to sound stupid. This is like the big trick, in case you're wondering how to learn any language. A huge part of it is being willing to embarrass yourself in public by using the wrong words and asking the same question the third time because you know what you're saying, right? There was this guy, he wasn't learning Japanese, but he learns a lot of languages, and I think he was learning Spanish or something at one point. And he wrote an article online about how learning languages. He said he didn't know how to use past tense, right? How the frick do you get through a day not using past tense? Well, he would say, yesterday. He would say, yesterday I do it. Yesterday I buy the thing, right? And you said something stupid, which is really funny, because if you've ever heard people with, who can barely speak English, right? Maybe in movies or something, and the stereotypical, stupid-sounding Japanese person, suddenly you're that guy. Now you're the stereotypical stupid white guy who can't speak the local language. But if you are willing to go ahead and experience that, right, and be corrected, right, then you end up learning so much more, right? So get into conversations with people. Go, when you buy something at the konbini, whatever, the convenience store, say hi, how are you doing? I asked the yakitori lady, how was business and so forth. And actually ended up going back several times. We scaled a relationship where I'd come by and practice some Japanese, right? And she might get a little bit of practice of English in there too, which is very nice. But I'm not credentialed in teaching English at all. I just show up and talk. It's very nice to do that way. What is the pointing in the background? What?
You talk.
Okay, I don't know. I thought you were signaling to the coffee pot or something, whatever that is up there. I'm like, I don't drink coffee, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is my interpreter. He interprets Steve's sign language. I'm good for now, thanks. But yeah, a lot of tea while we're on the subject of coffee. They do tea rather than coffee, and also there is soda. But we had an exchange student back from that same university to Carthage College where I was, and when she first got there, she was asking me where was the tea. We had these soda machines everywhere, and I was like, oh yeah, no, we're fat.
He's so alien.
That's right. It's your
I'm sure that has everything to do with what I just said. It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Okay.
And secret agents, right? So other experiences in Japan. Any topics most people are interested in? Raise a hand. Anybody?
Parking
Yes.
bikes.
Parking bike. Oh, well.
Somebody else said something.
Yeah, you're already up here, man.
You were talking about Skype earlier.
Yeah.
Aside from just dialing random numbers and hoping to get somebody, any recommendations for finding people to talk to?
Yeah, dialing random numbers does not work very well. Honestly, everyone I know through Skype, I've known, in person first. So, it helps a lot, obviously, to study abroad in Japan. Obviously, we're talking about, trying to get some language experience without having gone there. I'm sure we'll add that to our website now that you mentioned it, and we'll add, a list of people to Skype with. There's also Facebook, or if you happen to know a friend of a friend who's Japanese, there's another way you can get practice in there. I don't offhand know of a list of for foreign language exchange, how to get names of who to Skype with, or so forth. But I'm sure one of us will Google that. And I'll get back to you in the next panel. Hey, guy, come in. Cool. So I invite people in. I'm friendly that way. Yeah. So Skype is a valuable tool, and make sure to keep in contact with Japanese friends, and also people who aren't Japanese but were in Japan. I had several Korean friends, for instance. All South Korean, by the way. Everyone calls themselves Korean. They mean South. No one is from the North because the North is like locked down. It's like made of concrete. It's kind of sad. But a bunch of Koreans. I learned a couple words in Korean while I was at it. Sosu means prime number, which is the best first word to learn of a language ever. This came from orientation the first day. Like the orientation people weren't there, so I started writing up prime numbers for the heck of it and other mathematical theorems. I to the ith power equals e to the negative pi halves. It's awesome. But not relevant to what I'm talking about today. Just happens to be my favorite mathematical theorem. Yeah, orientation is boring, by the way. They went on for like 3 hours, including an explanation of hiccups. I don't know how someone thought this was necessary. I gotta get to this point, like, we're gonna have a diagram. This is how hiccups work. Gosh, forgive me. Let me into Japan. I'm gonna go do stuff, It's really neat living in a city like Tokyo when there is so much stuff. I was there for 7 months. I didn't see half of it, I still like whole sections of like, oh, I passed through there once, on the train someplace. But you find, pretty much everything. You find gigantic arcades, for instance. They certainly do have the otaku culture. Anyone here heard of Akihabara? Yes, Electric Town. Yeah. Basically, like the mecca of geeks are these geeks in Japan. Just every freaking game, DVD, anime thing. And then down to like freaking these tiny electronic stores. Like this total little guy in a booth who doesn't even have a door to get out. He has to like crawl out the thing with like all the random little like processor microchip things or whatever you've ever heard of. Which even I didn't know what to do with. But it was cool to like get pictures of them and stuff. Show a couple more odd things because I realize I have a bunch of these lying around. This is the hardest test I've ever taken because I can't read. Yes. I'm afraid to say that they do use kanji in Japan. Those of you who don't know. There's katakana and hiragana in the writing system, which actually sound like something, and kanji, which doesn't. And it's the friggin' hardest thing in the world. And I never really studied it much because it was dumb and annoying. I did eventually find a book called Remembering the Kanji by Lawrence Hessig, which is really neat, but this is very late into the process. Like just before I went to Japan, I found this book. So I got to there, and I couldn't read, which is just the dandiest thing ever. Oh, this is, you'll find this English all over the place. Anyone spot the error? Because I hope you can. Bananas are fruit. Okay. Fresh vegetables. Indeed. What's really great is if you happen to see a sign that's like, the grocery store, and here's bread, and here's like meat, here's vegetarians. What did they do to the vegetarians? My God. Anyway. Lots of little things like that, You can roughly tell like how much money has been spent on something based on how well they did their English. That tab is going to keep popping up again to mock me. This is a basketball hoop. I don't know why. I didn't even know that's standard, but that was the one near us. I found that was odd. So that goes in my odd things file. Yeah. Strangers than I've ever seen. That guy keeps mocking me going. We had... Oh, yes. Traditional. So it was one class. It was one weekend of just trips, which was really nice. So we would go off on a train somewhere, and we'd take a tour of someplace. And this took like all day. It was like it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We took all day on these things. And then at the end of the thing, the guy would be okay, goodbye, and the teacher would just walk away and not tell us how to get back to the school, which he didn't know this in advance. We didn't know this, so we had taken like 3 different trains over like 2 hours. That was interesting. The good news is train stations are generally double marked with English. That helps a lot. It's a test. That's right. The test. This is the can you survive homeless in Japan test. Or find your way back. Either way, you win. Went to Kawagoe though, which is called Little Edo. It's a bunch of like really old buildings, traditional buildings. So we had, for instance, this traditional Japanese building, and we found the images of legendary heroes on the side. They still have theirs. I don't know when they put that up, but I think it's slightly more modern. Also, for all your video game fans here, we had a traditional Japanese temple, a traditional lamp, traditional statue, and traditional Legend of Zelda Triforce. For reference, da-da-da-da, which I just couldn't know. So I was like, oh my gosh, Zelda has taken over everything. Da-da-da-da, which is technically narrated as I got the thing. That's your pro tip. It's not even official, but whatever. That's what I like to say. I got the thing.
Completely different project, but we won't go into that.
Well, yeah, we have so many random ideas. It's amazing. How many tabs did I load up? Because I didn't go through. Oh yeah, this guy was cool. You see things like this in Japan here. Well, first it's like this. Okay, this car's pretty small. Japan is small. Lots of things are small, by the way. You probably heard this one. Then this guy with his three-wheeled, I don't know what to call that. I've never seen one of these in America. The last one has him looking at me like, what? It's a car. I'm like, no, that is madness.
Looks like a bobsled.
Yeah, it's like a bobsled with an engine and three wheels, and it's on the road, and it's like not even anything at all anymore. If anyone knows the secret to getting internet access, by the way, that'd be great. The things you can do with hair. More English for you people. There's a hair place called Hair Make Beans, which I think is just incredibly logical. I believe we're gonna put that in Baka Desnay somewhere. We're gonna have like hair make corn or something, and he's gonna like cut his hair at some point and get an ear of corn out of it, and it'll just happen because he's Desi and I don't know, the world is just strange when he's around. In case you're wondering, make came from makeup. So that's the root of makeup became make, and then hair make is hair makeup, and the idea of it being a salon, a place that makes your hair look beautiful or whatever. And then beans is just to be dumb, you know? That's just to screw with you. Everything's backwards in Japan. You know, we have 911, they have 119. Like, I thought that was just the icing on the cake. You guys are just trying to be weird.
Yeah,
I think 911 is probably like the everything's fine signal, you know? We're gonna put that in Baka Desnay. There's gonna be a fire, like, no, it's cool, we'll go. 911, oh, never mind, everything's cool, everyone walk away. You know, who knows? We're at orientation. There's one of the other posts I have up here. We're gonna have a bit on that where, as I relate in this post, right, we show up at orientation. I've been studying Japanese for like 3 years, or like 3.5 years. I think I know what I'm doing. Like the first day you get there, you know, you realize that A, you can't read really, and B, you can't know who's bilingual just by looking at them. You know, like back in America, your teachers obviously still spoke English, and then this you're like, okay, it's a different language, huh? But then it got really bad the next day we go to orientation, the first of like 3, the latter one which had the freaking hiccup thing, I don't know why they were came from. I go to orientation and they start talking flat out Japanese at what's supposed to be an international dorm, right? Like this is specifically set up for people from other countries, straight Japanese, and like pretty soon. Huh? Yeah. It was fast. It was fast. You know, at some point, first off, right, all the white people huddle in a corner and start translating for each other because, you know, for perfectly fulfilling the stereotype that white people can't speak Japanese, which apparently those white people couldn't. I don't want to be stereotyped, but this is what happened in real life. I'm like, okay, wait, what did they say? I don't know. They said, did you get that word? What is that? They're showing these slides. There's random pictures. At one point, there's like a picture of a cat, and then everyone starts applauding. And we're like, yeah! Woo, cat! No freaking clue, right? At some point, they actually realize, oh, this is the international dorm, and they ask, does anyone not speak Japanese? But they ask this question in Japanese! They go, "Dareka nihongo kaimasen ka?" So thankfully, I know enough Japanese to express my ignorance. Be like, yes, I don't that thing you just said. And they send some guy over to translate, who's not, you know, a professional translator, really. They keep going the slides, and the guy is sitting there, and I have to like prod him. Like there's this thing coming up, and there's like a slide with like buildings and like some wiggly lines or whatever, and I'm like, okay, well, what's this slide about? And he like looks at it for a second, earthquakes. And then just stops. And I'm like, what in particular am I supposed to know about the earthquakes? Because I would like to know. this being like, you know, the most earthquaked country in the world practically, right? And seriously, he didn't get the idea of like translating every line. We had to like ask other people after the fact. You know, we're talking about that Baka Desnay though. We're gonna have Desi at orientation goes up and just starts translating despite not knowing any Japanese. You know, he's just looking at the slides. And at some point there'd be like a picture of like, you know, a guy with like the bill, like you had to pay a monthly bill, you know, for your dorm, whatever. And he's like, okay, pay your bill. Very important to pay your bill. And then the next slide is the one on earthquakes. Or we will shake the ground beneath your feet. And the next slide is like a map of Japan. Millions of earthquakes happen every year due to people not paying their bills. And then at some point we're totally going to do that. He's going to raid someone's like mailbox and take their bills away and then he'll destroy the whole house. It'd be awesome. Like these things somehow end up happening. You know? And on the subject of earthquakes, by the way, people may mention that. There are earthquakes. Nothing really dangerous ever happened. There was one, everyone has cell phones, by the way. Very important you get yourself a cell phone. Also very important, you cancel your contract at the airport before you leave. Because I got to the airport and I found the place, there's like a cell phone place. Of, okay, you know, my contract is done, I'm leaving the country. And then I like went through security and couldn't go back. And they're still charging me. It's been like 3 months, so like, I had to get one of my Japanese friends, I just recently figured it out because they was charging directly to my bank account. But I had one of my Japanese friends like talk to them and tell them not to do that anymore, please, because I'm not in Japan. Anyway, one of the things that comes standard with cell phones is an earthquake warning system. So there was one time I got the, like this what are the frick earthquake warning system. So I like lay in my bed for a while. It's like, I wonder how early those warning systems go. I was there for like 20 minutes, nothing happened. And then there was another time without a warning where there was an earthquake. And this time, yeah, things shake, nothing broke or, you know, exploded. Things are built pretty sturdy. You know, it's... There are anti-earth. That's one of my odd things, but like that's like on one of the tabs I don't have. I don't think it's like on the whatever.
Here's a picture of it up on the site. It's these white tubes with bases that one of them sticks to the ceiling and one to the top of the cabinets to keep them from falling over in an earthquake.
Right. So that was neat.
But there's just an odd thing to see because we're not used to having to earthquake-proof our house.
No. Earthquakes are not that hard to deal with, by the way. Just make sure nothing is above you that would fall on you, you know, and probably, like, don't do jumping jacks or cartwheels. I think I should be the government information minister, actually. Just, and probably don't do, like, jumping jacks or cartwheels. I haven't saw a pamphlet. Oh, now I get it. Swords. Oh, swords. Earthquakes are pretty cool. Food is pretty cool. They have lots of noodles. Everyone talks about sushi. Like, if you got sushi in Japan, they do have sushi. The other big thing, though, is the noodles. About what you mean, like ramen, like actual ramen. We have that crappy college stuff, which they do have over there, right, if you want it. But they have, like, you know, the local noodle shop where you go by and there's, like, a zillion different varieties of things I can't read. So, I do this a lot in restaurants. I'd be like, okay, which one of these can I pronounce? I'll take that one. Though, thankfully, in the other half of restaurants, they will have pictures. So useful. They'll even have, like, a mock-up, like, at the front of the restaurant with, like, everything that they have, you know. And you can just walk over and be like, this one, thank you, you know, please. And then they'll ask you, like, what sort of sauce you want with that. And you'll be like, whichever. Like, I couldn't tell what the question was. So a couple times you get that. Question in a restaurant. You'd be like, choose for me. Because I have no idea what you just said. But, yeah, it's cool. You meet a lot of people in Japan. This is, I mean, you can meet a lot of people anywhere, but I guess that's the thing to say about general study abroad. You leave the continent, you know, you leave your friends behind, you talk on Skype once in a while, and you're starting from scratch. And it turns out you can do that. You know, at least I can do that. I think other people can do that too. I'm hoping up as I'm just kidding. Yeah, you know, if you're out there and willing to meet people, they're willing to meet you. There's not a lot of prejudice that I found. That's one thing you sometimes hear, that the Japanese, you know, are ethnocentric, which is kind of like saying racist or something, that like they, you know, non-Japanese people are treated with less respect. That may be true with some people, you know, but not most people. I met a whole bunch of Japanese people. Like there was one guy I met at a party, And like, we immediately started talking about like video game ideas, and we were gonna make iPhone apps that we're still theoretically working on. And soon enough, like I stayed over at his place one time, and there's no automatic animosity to anyone who may worry about that. Though sometimes it may creep in, particularly against Koreans. I don't know why. The Japanese, when they are prejudiced against Koreans more so than Americans by some huge margin. I don't know why, really. Because there was that whole World War II thing with that.
Well, but Korea is right next to them, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's and they just move out into the ocean a little bit more.
Yeah,
they have earthquakes.
they also occupied Korea for quite a while.
True.
Up to the war.
Right. Then we occupied it. You see, that's what confuses me. But I won't get into geopolitics. So, like, I did have one Korean friend, that said sometimes it was a little test. Like, they'll always be polite. Like, they won't shout at you. Japanese politeness is a big thing. But, they might be, like, subtly rude. Maybe. It wasn't a big deal to me. So just keep it up in mind. Did someone raise a hand back there? I thought Tripod Man raised a hand. Yeah, I thought Tripod Man.
What about the Chinese?
The Chinese are like one step above the Koreans in terms of prejudice.
Well, I was just wondering because you mentioned World War II and China and Japan fighting that, and they're also right next to each other still.
Right. Well, yeah, there is. I did have a Chinese friend who said like he got some part-time job. But then, like, the managers didn't really train him, and then sort of blamed him for things they didn't really train him for, things like that. Yes.
I have a couple of Chinese friends, and that goes the other direction a lot more than I expected. A lot of the younger generation of Chinese are really prejudiced against Japanese because of things in World War II.
Right. Yeah. Again, though, Americans, we were there. I don't know. I guess it's because we're far away, and we keep buying their video games. Maybe they're happy about that. And their anime while we're at it now. I don't really know.
A lot of them like Western culture.
Yeah, Western culture.
Western cultures.
Yeah, I think part of it is that they basically control big parts of Korea and China. We beat them. So they respect a winner.
That might be it. Again, I don't really know enough to totally speculate. And by the way, one of the great pitfalls of studying abroad is going somewhere for a couple months and thinking you know the whole freaking culture.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. The people who have lived there might know it, right? But, it's still tricky. All right, we have a couple more teasers I want to get around before we run out of time. Oh, wait. Is that playing right?
Yeah.
You want? Could people hear that in those illicit 2 seconds that went by? You'll never know now.
Yeah, I can. There you go. We played that one already. You want to do that one again?
Sure, why not? 10
Go
seconds
back
long.
into this.
He's fought aliens and secret agents. He's faced ninjas, pirates, zombies, and robots. And ninja pirates, zombie robots. Not to mention robot pirates, zombie ninjas. What's coming this summer? Destiny takes on his greatest challenge yet. To learn Japanese as none have learned it before!
It's totally the ending line of episode 1.
Baka Desnay!
Good stuff. And then he goes off to get some food. In episode 2, like, and I'm hungry. And then he's like, what food should we get? I was thinking maybe something foreign. Maybe something like Asian. Something like Takshi's like Japanese. Yeah, Japanese food. Let's get that. Then they go to the place. He's like, well, what sort of food do you want? He's like, Japanese food, Takshi. I believe I told you that like 10 seconds ago. Yeah, go ahead and try this one.
Come visit exotic Japan, where you'll find such attractions as ancient Japanese architecture and authentic Japanese gardens. You'll also find ninjas! Where are the ninjas?
It will totally be
Baka
ninjas.
Desnay!
Grammar ninjas. Number 5.
BDN Travel Agency. You can fly first class to Tokyo for $1,200. First class? I came here in a suitcase. Baka Desnay!
Can you get the AVI to play on that? Yeah, there's trailer.avi, which is our most advanced animation. What you've seen so far is like art
No, the
in
AVI is
place
the one that wouldn't
with a mild zoom. We are going for a higher bar than this. Thanks so much.
API is the one that we play.
I get it over here. Look at
Alright.
the cord. Alright, we got 15 minutes left in this. Keep going. Other questions? Question. Anybody? Yes.
Of all the experiences you had in Japan, which was the most surprising one for you?
The most Uptown Girl comes to mind for some, but that's not profound enough of an answer. Freaking, the most surprising experience. I found it surprising that I was able to teach English and get paid for it, despite having no previous experience or credentials or anything, and do this week after week and everything. That whole gig came up to me totally at random. I got a call, and they're like, someone here wants to learn English. Can you teach them? I was like, oh, okay. And then I had to go find their house, which was complicated. And all these other things. Yeah, you can get lost in Japan, by the way. Be careful with that. The streets are not on a grid. They're on this craziness, because the whole city was built not according to any particular pattern or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the houses are numbered according to when the license was brought
Right,
out.
or according to when they were built, basically. So you can have number 1, 17, 6, So basically you have to find people on the street and be like, do you know where so-and-so lives? Because, I don't. Or you arrange for this person to meet you in the first place, we'll meet at the McDonald's and then we'll both bike to your house so I know where it is. Which, bring a camera with you. I totally did this. I was for when I was led to someone's house, I just brought a camera and every couple of seconds would snap a picture. And then later I would go back and okay, we turned left, and by that potted plant, we turned right. So I know how the frick I was going there.
It's actually common for people in Japan when giving directions to their house to just draw a map instead of
they'll draw maps. And they'll be like, and you'd be like, okay, you said that fast.
And also, not all the streets in Japan are named.
Right.
Which makes things
nameless streets. Just fun.
So
but you orient by the trains first off. You tell everyone, I live at this train station, or whatever is just closest to you, right? The trains themselves are oriented by the Yamanote line, which goes in a big circle, which is nice. I feel like, the center of everything. The center of this huge freaking Tokyo, man. I should show you a time-lapse video of me getting from... I was in Tokyo, but to get to the center of it took, forever. Huge city, and, they have a different concept of what constitutes urban. We were in an area that looked pretty much like Milwaukee, and I was told it was the suburbs. It's in the suburbs in America, we have space between our houses. You have houses crammed next to each other. That's the Japanese way. But yeah, that's fine. I find it very efficient, and you get exercise, not bothering with cars all the time. It's amazing. I must never get exercise. Come back to America, I'm like, frick, now I need to invent a reason to get up and go somewhere. So I guess I get a little bit coming to Milwaukee. Hey. Questions, comments, thing on Japan, or on the Baka Desnay project, or on the I have a trailer I could show you. Thank you for reminding me. I'll just keep talking in this tone of voice for some reason. This is based on the original one, but with more animation. I don't know. Whatever. We're cool. We sell hats. It's great. I totally bought the merchandise, this Baka Desnay thing. Yeah. I'm also the producer, but whatever. I still bought their merchandise.
Anyway.
All right. We have 11 minutes left. Other questions, comments? Anybody? Yes.
How much room do you have to ride your bike? If you haven't ridden it in a while, are you going to run into somebody?
But haven't ridden it in a while? Oh, if you don't have skill, you mean? It's fairly crowded. You'll be riding on a sidewalk where people walk or whatever, but you can tow on the road at any moment, and everyone's cool with that. Where in America, people may honk their horns if you get on the road or get off the road, whatever. Bikes are very much more integrated into things, and if you need a space to practice, you can find an open space at some point, a parking lot or something. In fact, a friend of mine was Korean and had never learned to ride a bike in the first place, and so us friends got together and taught her.
you can manage. Yeah, you get by with that. Also, bikes are cheap, which is very nice. Like I had to replace a tire once; it was like $30. I was like, wow, if I need to buy a whole nother bike, I could actually do that. It's like $100, as opposed to freaking cars. I got to go back to America, and I'm like, frick, now I need to buy a car. It's $7,000, and then it needs to be filled up with gas. You know, bikes don't need gas. You use food. It's so much better. You know, environmentally friendly and all these other benefits. It's amazing. But yeah, you can get by well enough with bikes. Parking bikes is cool. You get to park bikes with robots here and there. They're not as impressive as it sounds when I used to use the word robots. But you get to like the automatic bike parking areas where like, you know, you put in coins in the machine and it locks the thing into like the rack, you know, and then you put money in when you're done to get your bike back, or otherwise they keep it forever. Haha. There are some like frigging underground bike parking lots, which in my blog I dubbed like the National Strategic Bicycle Reserve. It was just like all these bikes. It was right next to a train station, right? So everyone would ride, they'd park, and then they'd go to work or whatever. Really interesting. Yeah, very much integrated, and I wish America could do the same, and then I wouldn't need my freaking car all the time. Which, oh, by the way, got, you know, smashed up on my way over here. So it's
we almost didn't make it.
We almost didn't make it. Yeah, that was great. I was like, we're going to MK. Okay, we got our laptop, we got our presentation, we got everything. We're getting rear-ended, which it did, and had to get a ride from my dad. Yeah, no, it's, you know, at least we got here. That is the importance of Amkey, my friends. You can tell the every now.
We made it.
Don't get rear-ended by people. I don't know how it relates. Whatever. That's the lesson. You don't get rear-ended on bicycles though. There's your connection.
Well,
no one's gonna smash up your bike.
Right. Get rear-ended on a bike.
Right. Like what's gonna happen to you? You know, maybe you needed a new tire or something. Great. No one needs to exchange insurance information for that. You just buy a bike or a tire for it or whatever. Yeah. Bikes come with bells and baskets, by the way, in Japan, because people actually ride their bikes places and, you know, put things in the basket. Whereas in America, it's like a little girl thing, you know?
Yeah. In Japan, everybody has a basket on their bike.
A lot of people have baskets in the back, too. And you have, like, you know, your whole week's worth of groceries in the back there, right? You know, people use bikes, like, all the time, you know? People use trains, too. Trains are apparently really safe. I would see, like, girls, like, 9 years old, clearly, like, coming back from school, unaccompanied in any way. You know, and they would just get off at their own stops, and it was totally cool. It was like, wow, apparently things are pretty safe. That's nice. Yeah. You know, I'm sure, like, there are certainly seedy parts of Tokyo. It's a big city. There is such thing as a Yakuza. If you see a guy that has all tattoos everywhere, don't talk to him. I never saw that guy, actually. But a cousin of mine who went to Japan did once, and was like, okay, just don't stay away from that guy. Yeah.
I heard something about drinking alcohol in Japan, where it's routinely customary. No one gets hammered and smashed like they do in America, but saying, oh no, I don't drink is really rare and uncommon.
Right. There's a lot. So yeah, we have 7 minutes left. There's a lot of drinking in Japan. I managed to get by without it. I've never had alcohol, and I just said I don't do it. People were kind of surprised, but like whatever. And then I had tea or something. People don't necessarily binge drink. You're right, like they do in America. That's not to say no one is ever hammered. Oftentimes people go to a bar and one guy will get, you know, a little too drunk for his own good. And then like everyone else sort of mobilizes to get him home, which is a nice mixture of community spirit and a guy is drunk. So good and bad in the middle there, but whatever. Yeah, it is very common to drink. It's also important to pour someone else's glass if you want to be polite, and then have them pour your glass. It's just a thing, so you know. But yeah, you know, you can get by without it if you need to. I did have a non-alcoholic beer once. It tasted like crap. It's like, never mind, you guys. I don't know about it. All right, we have 6 minutes.
Perhaps we'll let the next people set up.
I don't know. I mean, if the majority wants the next people to set up, that's cool. Or
well, do we have any other questions?
All right. Okay, so you want to learn anything else about this project? We're at bakadesnay.net, which is also